right, welcome back to your Everyday Rich podcast. This is going to be a bit of a different setup today, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll probably notice that you're my co-host, my lovely wife Jennifer, is not here with me. This is kind of off the cuff and an impromptu podcast that I decided to record today, and I'll get into the reason as why. But your Everyday Rich podcast here, if originally with my wife, obviously, if when Jen's here, we'd be introducing ourselves. Here's the spiel. We really want to showcase and bring to highlight, living room conversations that we have in our house, and hopefully you guys probably have living room conversations about money, career, kids, navigating cultural differences depending on your family upbringings, and really tying that in terms of how can we reach that freedom number faster. And that's typically what our podcast is all about. But today is a bit different, and I'll get into that. And yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with Jen and I. Just because I'm filming by myself doesn't mean there's issues. I guess I'll start off by saying that I was thinking about a lot of things over the last few weeks, and going through a lot of thoughts in terms of taking time off work to work on a few things, and then discovering yourself through like a lot of existential questions that arise with millennials our age, who happen to be turning 40 or coming up to 40, which, funny enough, when I was younger, which I still think I'm young, right? Don't get me wrong. Come on. Like, I'm always young at heart. I'm like, if anything, I'm like 5 years old inside. So, but like jokingly, when I was like 20, in my 20s, and we'd see all these, the joke about midlife crisis and people buying like sports cars and blowing their money on shit that they think that would make them feel better. And we joke about that all the time, and it feels like life is full circle, that I'm coming to that stage now where I'm asking myself a lot of these like, questions about like, what's the whole point of everything, right? What are we doing all this for? And through my conversations with my friends and seeing colleagues and family and just different pieces coming together, different conversations, I feel that we all will eventually go through this point in our life, through our journey, right? Because we ultimately are, we were talking about this on a lot of our episodes, like we ultimately are chasing the same thing, right? Which is freedom of financial burden, freedom from time, to have more time, freedom to enjoy the things that make us happy in life. And there comes a point where you ask yourself like, all right, how am I going to achieve that? And am I just doing it all for myself? And then along the ways, we're always going to come to these setbacks. And, the hardest thing to realize is when you have setbacks, are finding ways to come out of those setbacks, right? Having a few conversations with like some of my closest friends, and you don't realize how big of a part they have in your life, and vice versa. Even though like when you were younger, you never really kind of discussed things about life, right? Like adulting shit, right? And because it wasn't all about that. But as you kind of go through your milestones in your life, and you walk your path with your buddies, your homies, and some people get there before you, some people get there after you, and sometimes you're like, you're riding along shotgun with them, and vice versa. And you all take these different bumps and steps. And we realize that we're all after the same thing. It's just some people, the road and path getting there is a bit different. And it always will be. And the thing that I found and realized was if it's one thing that you work towards your goals and all the things that you want to do, it's more important to try to help the people that are coming along with you in your journey, that you want to come along in your journey, just as equally as you working on yourself. And I know that's kind of like a bit of this like hocus pocus stuff, right? But it's really true. Deep down, the core value of it is like, I always related back to when, we were traveling younger, out of school and, having the luxury of no kids, and we travel. Jen and I would say like, damn, like, you're the only one that I'm able to share this experience of, walking through the streets of Florence, or waking up in the literally 4:30 a.m. in Tokyo, going to the Shinjuku fish market to catch to catch fresh fish for breakfast, or something stupid happening like riding scooters up a cliff in a tropical island, and the bike kind of going stalling and then rolling backwards and falling off and cutting the shit out of everyone. Like, no one, that's the thing, right? Sharing experiences with someone or a group of friends is ultimately like the most satisfying for a lot of us. But that's kind of a tangent, but what I was wrapping back here is we're all gonna be fighting for something that's important, and you're gonna be figuring out like the reasons why you are motivated so much to be doing something you're doing, like regardless of what it is, right? I think social media has glamorized success as really easy, whereas success is a really bumpy ass road, right? And it's super corny, and you might see those memes about like the iceberg of what people see at the surface level, but underneath is this huge piece of ice under the water, where it's all the tribulations, all the failures, all the things that you missed, all the times you fucked up, and whatever, right? And the path to success is always like this curvy road. And I use this word success because like success is defined differently for everyone. And for me, if you asked me 10 years ago what success would mean, it probably would mean like having the most fucking amount of money possible, and being able to like live this lavish life of luxuries, which, don't get me wrong, straight up, that's something that we want to be able to experience and live as well, because life is really short to be able to not have a taste of those things. And that's what keeps people hungry, right? If you get a taste of it. I always remember this quote from Steve Harvey about, walking through first class. And if you have sat in first class and flown first class, I implore you to work hard to try to get your ass in a first class ticket. And, I've been lucky to fly first class, business class before. And it's like the most enjoyable thing that you've probably ever experienced on an airplane. But that thing keeps motivating you, right? Where you get that champagne, and you get that little napkin, that little towelette to wipe your hands, and they calling you sir versus, can you sit down and put your bags away? But, jokingly aside, you walk through there, it's that motivating factor, right? Those are some motivating factors for people. And other motivating factors for people are like, I just want to be able to pick up my kids every day, or drop them off, or be home at the dinner table, or be able to take, go eat at dinners and not give a shit about the bill, and have all your health intact, and all like so many little things where it's not necessarily tied to money, but money is a component to it. So like, as you kind of work through these things, there are gonna be like so many outside influences from what you see, what people see of you, and then you make these comparisons about like, why is it that I'm only here. And it's a really fleeting, discouraging feeling to feel like you haven't made it yet, or all the steps you're taking are so slow and just hasn't really materialized into anything. But I want to just say, like, you know, the steps to get to wherever you are. If you think back 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, where were you? And your life was completely different. And you have no idea if you took a left turn or a right turn, how that would turn out. Fuck, if you kept going straight, maybe that would have been even the same or worse. But you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So the fact that we doubt ourselves about, like, yo, you know, I wonder what would happen if I did it differently. And I ask myself all the time about stuff like that. You know, what happens if I didn't invest in that shitty company before? What happens if I didn't, you know, if I worked more hours to get to that point in my corporate career earlier on? Or what happens if I took the leap of faith and moved away from home, right? Because, like, as you guys, if you've listened earlier, like, in very common in Chinese or a lot of immigrant cultures, you know, we're encouraged to stay home as long as you want, because that's part of the family bond, family union of immigrants, right? And, you know, that almost in a way, it was like this thing that held you back. It was this comfort of, like, yo, being comfortable is nice. But then I realized over time that comfort is really relative to everyone. Yo, everybody wants to be comfortable, but deep down inside, you should never be satisfied. Because if it's up to me, yo, comfort for me is jogging pants and a sweater and a hoodie like this that I'm wearing right now. So everyone on audio, that's literally what I'm wearing. But sometimes comfort for people is a suit, a dress shirt, a tie, nice crisp iron shirt with a suit jacket, or, you know, a really nice blouse if you're a woman. I don't know, whatever, right? Because that gives you comfort knowing that that's how you want to feel, and that's how it makes you feel happy. It makes you feel good. So, you know, that part of, like, feeling like you haven't done enough because you feel like you've given so much already. Yo, I'm here to say that, like, it's just starting. Like, this is still part of the path, right? And I know I'm using a lot of, like, you know, these loose analogies and things that you probably heard, but I wanted to, like, reiterate and come on here to talk about this, because sometimes we see it in all these little pieces and bits. But these are all my thoughts and my conversations and my observations over the last, like, several weeks and sometimes months, just coming together. Where I was literally driving today, I'm just like, yo, shit. You know, it ain't always just about this. It ain't always just about that. And, you know, it's a really, really tough time right now in the economy. You know, people are spending less, even though, like, yo, Channel Check is really busy at the malls. Restaurants are packed still. Downtown core is crazy. People are, like, revenge traveling. So it makes you kind of question the macroeconomics. Like, what the fuck are the economists talking about? I don't see a recession coming, but all the data points to it, right? So, but, you know, if you're working, you're seeing your paycheck get stretched, and with taxes and inflation, and if you're running a business, you're finding that it's harder to draw customers, obviously, unless you're doing something to distinguish yourself, right? And that's also what I want to say, is that in order for us to all become the best we can and to help others become the best we can, you got to put yourself into a top tier of excellence, right? This tier of, I will be excellent at everything I do. And I relate it back to when I was, my first retail, I guess my second retail job. No, first retail job. I worked for Burger King and at Square One. So shout out to Burger King. Burger King's owned by Restaurant Brands International, so I think their ticker is RBI if you want to check it out. But I own that stock, but that's not investing advice. And I remember working there because some of my homies worked there, like some of my friends were working there. And anyways, it's like this joke about like you flipping burgers, right? All the songs talking about flipping burgers, and literally you come out, you do smell like burgers after a shift. Your hands smell like pickles and ketchup, and your fucking clothes smell like burgers, like beef burgers, and oil from the fries. But you know what? Like I went in there, and the people I worked with, we worked hard, right? You took pride in your job. Like, yeah, you know what? It wasn't glamorous, but shit, I got that 50% discount. Man, I leveraged that to the shit. And you saw managers get 100% discount. You're like, whoa, how do I get up there? Right? As a teenager, that's all you care about, free food. And people would come and try to abuse the discount, be like, yo, hook it up, hook it up. People still do, right? But what I was trying to say is that I noticed, like, throughout all my, like, working life, is that you'll notice a small percentage of people that will work their ass off. And what I mean is, like, you take pride in your work. Whether it's flipping burgers, taking out the trash, you cutting your own grass, or running your rental properties, or cooking dinner, fuck whatever, washing the dishes. You take pride in everything you do because you hold yourself to a standard of excellence that is undeniably, you cannot refute that. Someone can't tell you, but like, yo, you do a shitty job. And if we keep that level of excellence in everything you do, things are going to work out, because that's just the law of how the world works. You can fact check me on that. I don't even know, but that's just my analogy, right? And if you kind of go to the stores now, you go to restaurants, and maybe this is just me being salty, right? Getting to middle age, right? Fuck you guys, I'll calling me old, but just joking. I love it. You might notice, like, older people, younger people, it doesn't matter, right? Like, you're going to come across people that are just salty for some reason. Like, they hate what they do. They're cranky. They don't do a good job, right? People at, like, retail stores, like, you ask them, like, yo, where's something? Can you help me find this? And they're like, yeah, it's, I don't know, somewhere over there. And they just half-ass it. And if you half-ass things in your life, you're going to get half-ass results. So all that is really just coming around and saying, do the fucking best you can and never look back. The only time you look back is to learn for some lessons. To say, hey, you know what? Yeah, that probably wasn't the greatest decision, but here's what I did well, and here's what I'm proud about. And I'll learn from the mistakes or the pieces that didn't go well, and then really move forward on that, so that that shit doesn't happen again. Because here's the thing, right? When we get into a tough spot, our backs are against the wall, and your whole life, and or whatever, maybe even just the last few years, you've had this mindset about like, yo, world's against me, stars don't align, I'm never getting my shot, everything I do or whatever, I'm expecting it faster, this and that, and it creates tough times. And people don't like tough times. Well, let me tell you something, right? Tough times don't last, but tough people do. And you might have heard that already, but from other people, but this is the truth. You go back to the toughest time that you ever faced in your life, the biggest adversity you can think about, something that's unimaginable, that someone else cannot relate to. Someone has probably gone through it, but not the way you did, right? Because your life is unique. And all the situations that you've gone through, it's like you're experiencing for the first time of that thing. And you'll ask yourself, you're like, shit, man, everything during that was fucking dark. It was a really dark period. And when you look back on it now and you're like, you know what? That was a shitty time. That was hard. But I got myself out of it. And I told myself, I can do this. We can do this. And you found a way to get out. You scratched your way out of there. You didn't take the fucking coward way out. Right? You didn't give up. Because you wouldn't be here listening to this if you did. So, just keep that in mind, right? All of us will go through really tough times. And I guarantee you, if shit's going well right now, this is like an analogy of real estate investors. I was joking with a buddy here, and there's this joke about like every real estate investor will go through some sort of non-paying tenant or the eviction process. That's just bound to happen. And if you've been lucky enough to not have a tenant because your tenant screening process is the best, you have the best properties in the best areas, it is a matter of time. It is the rite of passage as a real estate investor to have a non-paying tenant and you to go through the eviction process. That headache is bound to happen. It's not if it will happen, it's when it will happen. And that's kind of like the similarity between like your life, our lives, whatever we're doing, it's bound to get tough at some point. Because if it was easy, fuck, everybody would literally be flying first class. Everybody would be driving Lambos. Everybody would be fine dining. Fucking tipping 25% plus. Don't even get me started on the whole tipping culture now. Ridiculous. But that's what I'm saying, is that your hard work, your execution to excellence, shout out to Bret Hart. Like that's kind of the inspiration to Bret Hart. Your level of standard and drive to win and push yourself, that's what's going to separate you from everyone else, right? Because we all sometimes get trapped in this feeling of like, I want to be comfortable. But you know what? Like, comfortable is nice until it's not. So, that mediocrity that we all, society kind of wants you to be part of that circle of mediocrity. I don't want you to be that. I want everyone to like be elite, right? Top of the class. Because that's how you all get out of this, right? That's how we all get out and escape and find that freedom. Something, the whole tough times and tough people thing where, I do feel that, it's just my opinion, right? So, I mean, come at me with your comments on this, but we do see a lot. I do see a lot of this entitlement now where we feel like if we did only so much, I should expect to get something huge in return. I invested something for 2-3 years and what the fuck? How come I'm not getting something that people that have been investing for 10-15 years or been through the game of something, the same results? Well, because you're not battle tested. Like, we're not battle tested. And to have that sense of entitlement of like, what's going on? Don't get me wrong. Some people are able to figure it out and catch that break, right? To put the right pieces in place. And they played the chess perfectly. So most of us won't. That doesn't mean that you can't. Right? We just gotta recalibrate and think about our moves. Because sometimes we'll take a few more moves. Like, man, it took a lot of moves for us to figure out like our investing style. It took a lot of moves for us to like figure out what kind of stupid purchases not to do anymore. It took a lot for us to figure out like how to manage properties. It took us a lot to like fight psychology of the stock market. It took a lot of everything, right? It took a lot to just become great partners with each other. Or it takes a lot for you to become great friends and keep great relationships. You know, I see my kids growing up so fast these days, and this whole comparison is the thief of joy. It starts even from being a kid, like as small as 5 years old, and that's my direct observation with my own children and seeing other kids. Right, I have the pleasure of having two freaking really energetic boys, and also the pleasure of seeing friends with kids on similar ages. And as much as we tell ourselves and we compare ourselves to other people, we compare to our friends, our family, influencers, celebrities, famous people, we compare our lives in all aspects. Kids do the same. And it's something for us to like really realize that it ultimately is the thief of all joy. Because you know what? Like comparing your first page to someone else's novel is fucking ridiculous. To think that if you just started in something that you should be exactly where they were. And that's not the case. And you know, here's an example. I want to show something. And I know everyone listening on Spotify and Apple, I'm sorry, but go to the YouTube page and check it out. We'll timestamp it. This is probably around like the 25 to 26 minute mark, give or take. You know, my kids have been getting into art, and we you know, I was a shitty artist. My brother was an amazing artist. My cousin was an amazing artist. I had no art background. In terms of drawing, right? Like drawing. I can write my name pretty much and maybe draw a 3D shape. But my kids start getting into art, and we tell them like, yo, use your imagination to draw stuff, right? And you know, like when you're younger and you see kids' drawings, and I'm sure your drawings were like this too, you just don't remember it, but you know, they first start out kind of like this, right? Like these really scary stick people, stick men, stick women, and you ask them like, what did you draw? Like, and I'm showing it right now in the video. And it's a stick person with a circle around it, kind of like some sort of shape. It looks like they're in a cave or a pot. And I have no idea what my son drew here, my 5-year-old. But if I asked him, he'd probably be like, oh, it was you. And that's just kind of, you know, the starting point where you see these drawings and you're like, that looks horrible. Like, what kind of retard drew these pictures? I'm showing another one. It's some sort of like creature. I think they, you know, it's like from that show, Storybots, like creature report. But that thing, the drawing is kind of like this tubular animal. It looks like some sort of tube with legs and arms. Anyways, but then you know, my kids start watching all these other things like Art Hub and start drawing stuff. So then, like, you know, here's an airplane. There's an airplane. This is my 5-year-old, and at the bottom is all this water, like wavy lines to imitate water, and then you have this thing that looks like a big ass tampon with like waffle wings on the coming out with windows and a smiley face in one of the windows. And the airplane is smiling. Like, this is literally the shit that high people would draw and start laughing about. But then this is my son's drawing of an airplane. And you look at this, you're like, that's so bad. But it's so good. You know why? Because he sees my older son drawing airplanes. And his airplane lines are crisp and clean. They're cleaner. There's more detail to the windows. There's more detail to the wings. Like, we talk about airfoils and how the wings shape because he's reading a book about airplanes and learning about the concept of lift. But then my younger son doesn't understand it yet, but he's trying to copy because he's comparing his drawings to my older son. And now my older son is drawing, I'm showing a picture of a train. It's a freight train, but it looks more like a passenger train, like a GO train or a Via Rail train or whatever. But the lines are crisp. And he used a ruler because they wanted to make the lines really straight, just like they are in, real life. The windows are defined, the doors are there, even the separation. You know that like accordion thing that separates trains, right? The compartments. He even drew that in. He's been on a train like 4 times, 5 times. Like, how the fuck do you remember that? When you see photos, videos, right? Like, and that's the thing. As you get older, as you put in more reps, as you kind of learn from what you did before, you get better. And here's a drawing. Here's a side-by-side drawing. All right. Of, I don't know, some sort of like Pokemon character. Mega Charizard X something. I have no idea. It's a black Godzilla with shooting out blue flames out of its mouth. So if you see both side to side, like you'll see, they kind of look the same to me. One of them is a bit more defined, and one of them is my older one. One of them is my younger one. And they both asked me, they drew it, and they said, which one do you like better? And this is the whole comparison thing, right? Because obviously they want your approval. Just like adults want approval. We want validation and approval from people like, yo, look at what I did. What do you think? I'm a post about it. Here's my new multiplex, and here's my new building that I bought, and here's my stock that went 45%, or here's whatever, right? Here's my son playing soccer, scoring a goal. Right? Because listen, it's the whole thing of holding yourself to a level of excellence. Because you want people, like, listen, man, I clap for, like, you want to clap for people that are winning, regardless of how small. I've always said this. And this is the whole thing, right? The comparison game gets dangerous because it starts so young like this. And then, look, I'm holding the last picture here, right? This is a book of all the sketches that my son was drawing, my oldest son. And you look at, I won't show all of them, but this one right now, he didn't draw this himself off imagination, but he copied Art Hub. And this is a Mega Charizard X, I think, right? Pokemon character. But it's really cool. Like, look at the defined colors. And, you know, I went through that with him in his earlier ones and saying, like, if you use different shades of markers, you can create different, like, tones. If you use pencil crayons, you can color harder or softer to create different tones. And he never knew that. It was all about, like, you look at my younger son, it's all about, like, yo, you take a crayon or whatever, you just go as hard as you can. You just make blotches of lines. Well, that's what I'm saying, is that you go through all these things and you keep learning. Yes, we'll compare ourselves, and that's normal, but then get right back to holding yourself to that excellence and keep getting better every day. And like I said, if you wither away when times get tough, then fuck, no one is coming to save you. Only you can come save yourself. But along the way, there's always going to be people to be able to help you out too, right? That goes back to the whole message of, like, helping others win is just as good as you winning yourself. And I'm holding a ruler up here. This is like a thing that we obviously use to measure stuff. It's a rule, 12-inch rule. But other people might see this like this is a measuring stick. And sometimes we use these different measuring sticks to compare ourselves to other people. You know, why? How come I'm only here? How come I'm, I see other people killing it. Right? That goes back to, like, that psychology part is we have to really reframe about what we say to ourselves, the thoughts that we have, and take little wins that come along. Is just as important as celebrating those huge ass milestones. And when you do, celebrate them hard, but get right back to fucking work. And I know I'm going to be wrapping up this up soon. I wanted to, this is more of been a mindset thing where we really are strong believers in mindset, because your mindset really sets the foundation to everything you do, your health and wellness, your financial success, everything. your parenting, your relationships with your friends and family, right? So that's why I want to like literally hop out here and talk for 35 minutes so far about this, because I think it's super important. It's the biggest piece that I feel that growing up, our parents never mentioned anything about that. In a way, it was almost kind of the tough luck, suck it up kind of thing. Not, ooh, it's okay, you could try harder. It's all right. Here's a participation award. Which happens now. But I wanted to leave with this these names for you to think about. And if you are a millennial, if you're not, and you're working towards whatever it is you are, just keep going. Because your timeline hasn't been defined yet. Your book's not finished being written. Right? There's lots of film left in that video. That road has not come to an end. And if we put ourselves in a defined timeline, it makes it so unbearably, so much pressure and anxiety to get somewhere. When what we need to do is focus on the next step, day by day, right? There's too many times we see in this world where it's like people that are 25 and, you know, they invented the Facebooks and the Ubers and the Googles and shit like that. All these tech people, which granted, like ultimately, I love that. It's helped us shape what we do and how we use the internet. But there's also people around the world that have found success later in life, right? And I wanted to leave you with some of these names so you could think about that. All right. Momofuku Ando. Momofuku Ando. I think that's how I pronounce it. You're probably like, who the fuck's that? At the age of 48, this person from Asia, actually from Taiwan, I think he was Japanese and he moved to Taiwan after the war, invented instant noodles. So all those $20 bougie ramen noodles that you eat, or the $1 cheapo ones that taste just as good, yo, holler at me if you want some names on some good ones. Not some bullshit cup of noodles. This guy at 48 invented instant noodles and founded Nissan Food Products, the largest global distributor, maker of instant noodles. 48. Next name, Chip Wilson. You're probably like, who the fuck is Chip? What? Who? 43 years old. Guess what he founded? Every woman has a pair of these pants in their closet. I guarantee you. Chip Wilson founded Lululemon. A man. And if you read the story, it's actually really interesting, right? Next name, Vera Wang. That's kind of a staple now, right? In the fashion designer icon. Did you know that she was a figure skater and a journalist on the side to make ends meet? And not only to do that, but she worked on her passion of fashion. And really didn't hit it big until she was 40. And you're just like, holy shit, Vera Wang's been around forever, it feels like. Yeah, because she's probably been working on that for the longest time. All right, one of my favorites here. I got two Sams. All right, I'll read the first one. Snakes on a motherfucking plane. Samuel L. Jackson. Like, he is kind of like the staple. Like, he's one of the biggest superstars, the Hollywood superstars, right? The blockbuster films, everything from, you name it. Pulp Fiction to Star Wars to Snakes on a Plane to like all these great movies. He was 43 when he got his big break on Jungle Fever. Did you watch Jungle Fever before? If you're younger than a millennial, you probably never heard of Jungle Fever, but it was directed by Spike Lee. Anyways, next Sam Walton. The name Walton, Wolko, Well, you know the first Walmart retail store? He opened his first Walmart retail store when he's 44. 44. And look at Walmart now. You can't imagine life without Walmart. Can't imagine the people that go through Walmart every day. Be nice not to have to deal with that bullshit. But yeah, no, look, Walmart. WMT, Walmart sticker, stock sticker. Martha Stewart, her first cookbook, right, at 41. Come on, like Martha Stewart, Snoop Dogg, Martha Stewart. Like, that's nuts, right? I would never have thought that. But, you know, she obviously got too greedy and now she went to jail. So when you make it, don't get too greedy. All right. A few more. Barack Obama. Did you know when he graduated? So he went to like obviously like university, you know, like was it Harvard, Princeton, or Yale, or fucking one of those schools. 43. He could barely pay off his student loans. What made him famous, obviously before, or made him, I guess, his first million, was writing a book before he was president or governor or whatever. He was an author. His first book made him $1 million. All right, and probably the most famous that you hear about is Harlan Sanders, aka the Colonel Sanders, the creator and founder of KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. He didn't figure KFC. He founded KFC when he was 62. Right? So you can see all these names I've named. Some of you probably never heard of. Some of them are like, you know, well known. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. What matters is that you keep on doing something and you keep working your ass off and holding yourself to a level of excellence. Because the last person I haven't mentioned on this list is you. Whoever you are, it's you. Right? I want to be able to look back and say, yo, this person at the age whatever did that. And it doesn't have to be something special or crazy famous. It's whatever you want it to be. So don't give up, because remember, hard times don't last. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. So with that, keep on going. Keep working your ass off. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Because remember, helping people at the cornerstone is what relationships is all about. All right, man. Yo, go kill it. I think this is much needed. And, you know, let me know if you like this one. This is literally the first impromptu one that I kind of filmed and recorded. But, you know, maybe it's something that you really jived with. I don't know, maybe you just fucking totally hated it. Leave a comment, right? Help me by rating the show, right? So that our messages of mindset and financial literacy, these conversations can keep going to other people's living rooms, right? And then one day, hopefully, we get to have these big conversations on the big stage, because that's the big goal here, the big stage. Anyways, all right, I'm out. It's time to go. All right, next time. Peace.
Everyday Rich podcast is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. Any such information or other material should not be construed as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a qualified professional.